announcement of Waypoint by HashiCorp, which is basically a lightweight pass that you can self-host. And my guess is HashiCorp is positioning themselves to host this in the near term. What I think is really interesting about it is that they've done a few things that we did ourselves this year, which was work on a kind of Heroku-like workflow. They identified what was really nice with Heroku and thought, how can we generalize that so you can define your own steps, your own build packs, and have a very straightforward way to package your artifacts and then deliver those artifacts through deployment. What's interesting is Mumoshu, who is a regular contributor to Helmfile and gosh, a half dozen other open source projects. He has already written a Waypoint plugin for Helmfile as a, you could say, a way to get his hands dirty and figure out like what this is. And I thought, everyone was kind of scratching their head a little bit on what is Waypoint when it was announced. I think it was a little bit ambiguous. Is it a task runner? Is it just like a make replacement? What is it? And it's much less that. And it's much more just a way of organizing your deployments. I don't think it's mutually exclusive with, if you're using Argo CD, for example. The idea is that this is just a way of bundling those artifacts. And then you can, the Argo would be like a plugin for Waypoint. So this is one layer above that. So in his example here, he shows how once you have enabled the Helmfile plugin for Waypoint, you can then pass the parameters to Helmfile the way you would ordinarily do. And you don't have to use a here doc, of course. You can use the YAML encode methods and things like that. Has anybody had a chance to kick the tires yet on Waypoint?
I tried it on Saturday, so I spent like 1 hour reading documentation completely. Actually, was following, as you said, trying to figure out what is it actually in first place. And my understanding from the conference itself was one thing, and then when I read documentation was totally different things. And then when I tried to run examples, they failed.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah, that was a whole like process. So I spent 2 hours, and then I figured out that right now there is no way to interact with existing toolset, which we've been using for quite a long time, Packer and Terraform.
Yeah.
So for me, that's like, I really want to figure out how in all existing toolset it can be plugged in. I understand like you can do build and deploy and release, well, but I already have, I don't know, thousands of lines of whatever tools I've been using.
No, that's true. And that's a really good point. And I think that the target demographic is probably not people who have something that's working today. Inevitably, when these revolutionary new tools come in, it's like, ugh, how do I squeeze this in? Do we need to squeeze it in? We have something that works today. Do we replace it? But in Cloud Posse, we've been investing heavily in something very similar in terms of the task runner, which is variant 2 by Mumoshu. But it turns out that I think there's still, I think I can still see how this fits into how we do things, but it is very opinionated, and it's something that anybody who's been doing this for a while has a solution for, and it might not be easy to rip it out. So for like Terragrunt, I think that would be a plugin. For Packer, I think that would be a plugin. And then how you stitch those things together would be expressed through these different.
Well, I couldn't find really a place where I can easily, let's say, call shell script. There is an exec plugin, but it doesn't do what it's supposed to be doing.
No. So what was the exec plugin doing?
I don't remember right now, but it was not for calling shell scripts.
Okay, because it sounded because the Helmfile plugin here was based actually on the exec provider that he repurposed for his purpose. But who knows? Maybe. Yeah, I'd be surprised. That's interesting. Okay.
Well,
has anybody else?
Yeah, there are plugins, and also there is built-in feature called exec. I'm not
Okay.
sure which one is what.
Yeah.
But
Eric, this is Sheldon. I got a
Hey,
response
Sheldon.
back from I think it was Mitchell when
Oh,
he
cool.
first announced it. It was pretty cool. And
Yeah, I
I
saw your post there. I liked it, I think.
cool. So I actually did ask for, I guess, context for others. I asked, does this cross over into the realm, with like, I've been experimenting with the task file runner
Yeah.
that you guys mentioned. Absolutely pretty awesome. I use invoke build. You got make, you got variant 2, you got a lot of like dev oriented stuff that wraps up this. And at least the initial reaction that he had from there was that they're not really at this time looking to scope this into the dev space where you have like the
Yeah.
local utility. So maybe that's where my misunderstanding, as I've tried to figure out where it fits in my scope, I don't see the point yet. And just like you described, if somebody already has a tool, it's going to be hard to fit it exactly as is.
Yeah. I really like that you brought that up again. I remember seeing that as well. So yeah, basically how to leverage this as part of your local development workflow, as well as your like production and release workflow, isn't in scope of the project at this time. However, I think that's one of those hard, I don't know. I mean, everyone has a very different local development workflow. That's one of those things that's really hard to generalize also when you want to take things to production. And I guess, so I get why they did it. I kind of would be eager to see, HashiCorp try and solve this very hard thing. How do you create a simple local developer experience, but also translate that for production deployments?
yeah, I was trying to get it up and running locally, and I couldn't find any way to parameterize things as well. So there are no concepts of variables, environment variables. So everything is pretty much hard-coded.
Well, so I guess that's in an artifact of some kind then, right? Or
no, I mean in the pipeline inside of config file.
Yeah.
So that's why in documentation they say that you may have multiple steps or multiple types of deployment, or multiple types of releasing or something like that. I don't remember exactly the definition, but I was really expecting to see some sort of, let's say, environment match, and if environment equal dev, then do this. Some sort of, I understand that it's not like this in HCL, but this was extremely static.
Yeah. Be interesting to see a demo of how HashiCorp deploys Terraform Cloud with Waypoint.
Well, they built an AMI.
Yeah. So, cool.
I did have a question regarding that when you mentioned HCL. Maybe it's best for the end, but the announcement with HCL described Packer, and they had a call. I didn't get to attend it, and but it was about HCL2 for Packer. And I went to their website, and it's still considered beta or not for use in production, at least in the documentation. So I wanted to ask if anybody heard an update on that, or know if, or see if you have moved to HCL2 for your Packer workflow.
I know we looked into this back in March, April timeframe for something we were working on, and we realized, I don't remember what the details were. We realized there was a lot of functionality that hadn't yet been ported into the HCL version of the Packer config format. I don't know if that's still the case, and I didn't see the announcement that at HashiConf. So.
And
yeah, exactly.
Last thing about Waypoint, which I want to get your opinion, guys, is, do you actually see Waypoint as any like continuation of existing toolset by HashiCorp? Like, they all have previous tools which people used, and they will fit pretty well in, let's say, operational, like Vault, Console, and Nomad. And for me, it seems that Waypoint is just trying to like grab audience without exact solution. So it's like, we know your problems, and here is something what we are gonna to come up with.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I mean, people have asked, okay, so you have all these discrete tools. How do I stitch it all together? And I mean, this has been a lot of what Cloud Posse is focused on for our customers, is tying these tools together in some way in an opinionated fashion. So it's going to be really interesting to see what HashiCorp comes out with. Obviously, it's going to be much like the AWS ecosystem of tools, work really well with them. I'm guessing that's going to be true with the HashiCorp system and the tight integration with Vault, with Nomad, with Console, all that stuff, encouraging tighter usage of those tools. So is it premature? Totally. But I guess they're trying to solicit some excitement. There was also, what is it, Otto, or what was the tool that preceded?
Otto.
Yeah, and that seems like that kind of fell on deaf ears, or it was abandoned, and they've archived that project now. And then this is that project totally re-envisioned, a total rewrite. So we'll see if they do a better if they do a better job launching it now, that they have a whole lot more attention and a larger community that gets excited about their tools. But I think everyone here is looking for, like, hey, we need some guidance from you guys, because we keep on building these tools around your tools, and then you decide to go another way. So.
Yeah, but also there is very big competition in all of these areas already. So they obviously don't want to say, hey guys, we stick with this operational tool, so go and use Pulumi for that.
Yeah, no, they don't. There's a lot of competition there. I don't know how serious of a threat yet Pulumi is, but but I guess so. Their answer a little bit to that was, what was it? AWS TF, which, or no, CDK-TF.
CDK-TF.
Got that? Yeah, got that wrong. Which actually doesn't is not in any way required. Would work with GKE or any other provider you use with Terraform. Yeah. I'd very much like to see the concept that TerraGrunt has of, like, remote root modules, where you can init from module become a mainstream feature of Terraform. I think.
Well, you have solution for that already, right? Long time
we had.
ago.
We don't use it anymore because it doesn't work well, because they broke functionality in 0.13.
Well, and this functionality is not restored still.
Yeah.
There are a few open issues. So yeah.
Was it a problem in TerraGrunt as well, or did they re-implemented it another way?
Well, no, in TerraGrunt it's the same. I mean, it works well, but there were many times when I wanted to jump off from TerraGrunt, and well, the only option which I can do is similar to what you made in TFN project long time ago.
Yeah.
Which is
one of the things that they've improved. I think they've improved one thing now, which was the ability, not all Terraform commands supported a directory or state file path. And I think in 0.13 they fixed that. But that might, we kind of walked away. What I learned from that was, don't try and do anything that Terraform doesn't recommend in their documentation as a way. So it felt like we were hacking around some internal thing that they don't recommend for that.
Speaking about forward compatibility, things which which will be announced in even 0.15 are pretty interesting. Is that if you rely on some internal APIs of Terraform, be ready that they will be deprecated.
Like
you don't even have access to that.
So we're talking like in providers that have been written that are using Terraform internals, or
this is specifically, like, I don't have too much details right now, but I talked to Kazuma, who is creator of TF-Lint, and he said that there are some backward or forward incompatible changes in upcoming versions of Terraform. I mean, which means that he cannot provide enough insights for the Terraform code, because he doesn't have access to the API internal. And yeah, there is an open issue in Terraform repository And developers just say that, yeah, but that's live. You don't have access to that one, which is a little bit strange, but that's how it is.
And I wonder what that does to some of the vendors creating products around linting Terraform. If that has an impact on Chekhov, I don't know, for example, then, or.
Well, this is actually a very big problem, I can tell you, because I'm one of these vendors who is interested in proper tooling around Terraform. And so far, it was not very straightforward. For example, there is significant lack of tooling related to parsing and understanding structure of HCL, as well as generating HCL. Like, there is some tooling which you can use, like HCL reader or HCL writer, but it's very, very basic. And the reason for that is that
it's published as a standalone library, no?
this library doesn't exist, I think, anymore, because it's now part of HCL. I mean, this is used inside of Terraform.
Archive.
Yeah, so it is used inside of Terraform. But the biggest challenge here is that things related to Chekhov, as well as other Python libraries, is that it's pretty much impossible to parse full HCL syntax the way how people write it. Specifically, some features like override inside of Terraform. I honestly have never met people who use it.
Yeah.
But there are people who use it, unfortunately.
We've used it on very scarce occasions, but yes, it's very infrequently used. Yeah, that's a good point. So then, and then parsing all those exceptions and
Yeah, so there is not enough tooling which Terraform as a library can give you.
What is HCL edit doing, for example?
I guess they just use HCL reader.
Okay.
Well, they actually do writing, but I don't know how they do this. It's most likely they support maybe subset of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they can do this. It's quite complicated.